Hey, this is Shane Dahl of Shaping Concepts and ShaneDahlFitness.com, and today I want to talk to you about some certain foods that I'm going to recommend you leave out of your diet whenever starting a fat loss program. And this ties back in when you hear me talk about the importance of doing a cleanse and the reasons why I'm pulling some foods out that I get a lot of questions about this. So some of this, when I talk about removing grains and oatmeal and legumes and stuff like that, beans, things we've been taught that are very healthy, when I say, well, I want you to pull them out, I want to explain to you why. I'll let you be the judge of what not you do, but I'm going to explain to you what happens. First off, the certain foods I reckon you do pull out. Obvious ones are going to be sugar, refined foods, any processed foods, fried foods, milk, peanuts, grains, and legumes. Okay. Particularly, I want to talk about these grains. And everybody's probably familiar with wheat gluten and the possible problems with wheat gluten, and I want you to understand why. Okay. Whenever you eat any food, all this is going to come into your stomach. Larger particles, as you begin to enter into your small intestine, your intestinal tract, it begins to get broken down into smaller particles, okay? Within your intestinal tract, this is where you're going to absorb the nutrients, okay? Hopefully that's where you absorb the nutrients. And within your intestinal walls, you have these little protruding membranes that are called villi or microvilli, and that's what's actually grabbing the nutrients, grabbing the good stuff, okay? But what happens is when you eat certain foods, and let's talk about grains. Because grains contain certain substances called, these are proteins called lectins and also phytates. I'm going to explain to you what these do. Not beneficial for us, and really this is a whole subject within itself, but understanding why they're not beneficial for us. Basically the grain is just, it's trying to protect itself. It doesn't have, I guess the best way to explain it is if you eat fruit, if you eat berries, if you eat a berry or eat some sort of fruit, and you digest it and you eliminate it, it still has the ability to go back to the earth and reproduce and continue on, right? When you eat grains, you're actually eating the reproductive part of that plant, so it doesn't like that too much. So it's going to protect itself, and it's got some pretty strong chemicals that help to protect it, okay? So whenever you're trying to digest these grain products, what happens is that these little microvilli, they will attach to these lectins. And what happens is it allows them to pass through your digestive system intact. This isn't a good thing. It damages the intestinal walls, okay? Over time, what happens is that you can begin to leak these undigested food particles and some toxins and other harmful substances into your bloodstream. When you get that into your bloodstream, your body sees it as, it's basically, it's an invader. It's a foreign substance. So you produce inflammation. That's what causes the bloating. It's viewed as a stress. So understand that, remember the hormonal connections of all this. Once your body views it as a stress, you're going to increase cortisol production. Cortisol production can affect all the other hormonal systems. It can also kick in an immune system response. Remember, your body is seen as an invader, just like it would a bacteria or a virus or a parasite, so it's going to attack it the same way. So a couple things will happen. These microvilli, these villi, what we're using that we want to be able to absorb nutrients, they become damaged and they become very sensitive because of the fact that we've got some leakage. They're basically being harmed by the lectins. The phytates, which are part of the grain, what they do is they bind to metals. So they're going to bind to iron, to calcium, to magnesium. This isn't a good thing because what happens is your body's not allowed to absorb those nutrients, and it's going to pass through. So even things like osteoporosis and it's all about, well, take more calcium and take more vitamin D. One of the best battlegrounds, one of the first places you want to start is being able to absorb those nutrients in the first place. So if you're having a lot of processed food, you're having a lot of refined food, you're having a lot of grains and even the stuff, like I said, that we're told is healthy, whole grains and wheat products, you're not going to be very good at absorbing these nutrients. And if you get a lot of metabolic waste, you get a lot of buildup, these microvilli become damaged. They'll start to become, basically inflamed, and we can have a whole host of problems. Some of the things that you're going to experience: more frequency to colds and sickness, weight gain, the difficulty losing weight, fatigue, low energy, allergies, a lot of various skin problems, low sex drive, bloating we talked about, leaky gut syndrome, which is basically a condition where we talked about when you start passing through some of these toxins through your intestinal tract into your system, can cause a host of problems. osteoporosis we talked about, and left, long term, what this can increase because of the inflammation. Okay, this is key. Because of the inflammation that you're producing, the long-term effects of the more prevalence of certain diseases like cancer and diabetes. So it's not a good thing. One thing I do want to mention about is this Candida albicans, which all this is it's a beneficial, naturally occurring yeast that exists in your intestinal tract. Okay, it's a good guy. But what happens is when we have a lot of sugars, a lot of refined foods, and we have a lot of these grains that are disrupting the natural balance within your intestinal walls, the Candida can basically take over the good guys. So it becomes more prevalent. It sort of outgrows the other guys. So we basically have a bad imbalance of the yeast with the rest of the bacteria in intestinal walls, and that's why we hear people talk about natural yogurts and the probiotics. That's why that's good, because it's helping to even out the scale with this yeast and the other bacteria. So I just wanted to mention that. So long and the short on this is that when you have these grains and legumes, and peanut is actually a legume. It's actually a bean. That's why I included this in this list. Milk, because of the lactose that's in milk that can cause problems, and obviously sugar is going to be doing the same thing. So that's why I wanted to leave this out of your diet, and I just wanted to make sure that you understood that what really the battleground is really right here. It's in your intestinal tract, and it's with your body's ability to absorb nutrients. So when I teach about doing the cleanse, what I'm wanting to happen is I want to be able to get your intestinal system clean. I want to get these microvilli function properly. I want you to be able to absorb nutrients effectively and efficiently. So the best way just for me to describe it is that if your system's all bound up with metabolic waste and you don't have a good balance here, you might start a diet and you might be eating all the right foods and you're eating healthy, but you don't have a good a good setup. You don't have a good foundation for being effective at grabbing those nutrients and being able to bind things like calcium and everything that ties into fat loss and how that happens. It all starts here. Your hormonal balances, everything with insulin, your digestive system is so important. So that's why I'm telling you to leave out grains and leave out legumes. It's because of these lectins and phytates. It's an individual choice. If you bring them back into your diet, I typically leave them out for 30 days. What I recommend is when you do integrate them back in, that we do it one at a time. We do it slow. Some people can do better with things like rice and corn and some breads, and some people don't. So it's an individual thing. But in general, I know that you'll do better without it. So my advice is leave them out for 30 days. Let your body fuel off of fruits and vegetables and healthy fats and lean proteins. You can get all your carbohydrate needs, even with some tubers, sweet potatoes and yams. We don't need to have these grains and legumes. So there it is. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions, just feel free to shoot me an email. And we'll talk soon. All right, take care.